Have you ever traveled somewhere and felt like people didn't really want you there? It's not always personal. Some places just aren't super friendly to tourists. In this video, we'll talk about 7 countries where travelers often feel unwelcome. Knowing this ahead of time can help you prepare or decide if you even want to go. Let's start with a place full of history and culture, but not exactly a warm welcome. Russia has some of the world's most famous landmarks, like Red Square, the Kremlin, and St. Basil's Cathedral. It's also home to beautiful nature from snowy Siberia to deep blue Lake Baikal. But for many tourists, visiting Russia can be tough. One big challenge? The language barrier. Most people don't speak English, especially outside of Moscow and St. Petersburg. So ordering food or asking for directions can be frustrating. Plus, customer service in Russia isn't always warm and friendly. Most people aren't trying to be rude, it's just a cultural difference. Russians tend to be more serious and formal, which can feel unfriendly if you're not used to it. There's also a lot of paperwork and strict rules for tourists. The visa process is complicated, and checking into hotels can be a hassle. Some travelers say they felt ignored or even watched closely by locals. Of course, not everyone has a bad experience, but it's definitely a place where tourists can feel out of place. Do you think Russia is actually unfriendly? Or is it just a cultural difference? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you think Russia sounds tough, wait until you hear about the next country, where some people don't even want tourists there at all. South Korea is famous for K-pop, delicious food, and high-tech cities. But while Seoul is full of lights and energy, some tourists say it doesn't always feel welcoming. One reason? South Korea has a strong national identity, and foreigners sometimes feel like outsiders. English isn't as common as you might expect, and some locals avoid talking to tourists. Some visitors say store workers or restaurant staff seem cold or uninterested. In some cases, foreigners have even been turned away from certain bars or clubs. Another issue is the country's social rules. People in South Korea value quiet, respect, and personal space. If you don't know the cultural norms, you might feel uncomfortable. Some tourists say they've been stared at in certain areas, while others felt ignored when they couldn't speak Korean well. Would you visit South Korea despite the mixed experiences? Let me know what you think. And if you think a quiet, reserved culture feels unwelcoming, wait until you hear about a place where people don't hesitate to get into your face. Morocco is known for its deserts, colorful markets, and ancient cities like Marrakesh and Fes. It's beautiful, but some visitors say the experience can be stressful. One of the biggest problems? The aggressive sales tactics. Shopkeepers and street vendors can be extremely persistent, sometimes even following the tourists down the street. Many travelers feel pressure to buy things, and saying no doesn't always work. Women in particular have reported getting unwanted attention or comments while walking alone. Scams are also common. Tourists often get overcharged by taxis or tricked into paying for mandatory tours that aren't actually required. One person shared that they were followed for blocks by someone demanding money for directions, and they didn't even ask for directions. That said, Morocco is still an amazing place to visit if you know what to expect. Would you be up for the challenge, or does it sound too stressful? If you think persistent vendors are exhausting, wait until you hear about a country where some locals seem to see tourists as walking wallets. Egypt is home to the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, and the Nile River. It's one of the most famous travel destinations in the world. But while it's an incredible place to visit, some tourists have a hard time dealing with the aggressive sales, culture, and scams. One of the biggest complaints? Pushy vendors and tour guides. Tourist heavy areas like Cairo and Luxor, visitors often feel constantly pressured to buy souvenirs, take camel rides, or book extra tours. And if you say no, some people don't take it well. Scams and overcharging are also big issues. Taxi drivers and market vendors often charge tourists way more than locals. Some travelers have even reported being scammed at ATMs or by helpful strangers who demand money after giving directions. Despite these challenges, many travelers still love Egypt for its history and beauty. Would you visit, or do the scams make it a deal breaker? Now, if you think unfriendly people are a problem, imagine visiting a country where people just prefer you didn't talk to them at all. Finland is famous for its beautiful nature, the northern lights, and its love of saunas. But while the scenery is welcoming, some tourists feel the people aren't. It's not that the Finns are mean, they just prefer to keep to themselves. They don't do much small talk, and they like their personal space. Customer service is efficient, but don't expect big smiles or friendly chatter. One traveler said they sat in a cafe for over an hour without a single word from the staff. Another person felt awkward at a bar because nobody looked or talked to them. For some visitors, this quiet and peaceful vibe is nice, but for others, it feels lonely and cold. Would you rather visit a quiet, reserved place like Finland, or do you prefer somewhere loud and full of energy? Let me know. Speaking of energy, our next country might have too much of it, especially when it comes to security checks. Israel is a country full of history, from Jerusalem's ancient streets to modern vibes of Tel Aviv, but for some tourists, visiting Israel can be stressful and even intimidating. One issue: strict security checks. At the airport, travelers often face long interrogations, baggage searches, and intense questioning. Some visitors feel like they're being treated with suspicion for being tourists. Another challenge is the political situation. Protests and tensions between different groups can make some areas feel tense, and tourists sometimes feel uncomfortable discussing certain topics with locals. Some travelers also report feeling judged or ignored in certain areas. Despite these challenges, Israel is still a unique and fascinating place. Would you visit, or do the strict security rules turn you off? And finally, what if the problem wasn't just an unfriendly vibe, but actual danger? Venezuela has some of the most breathtaking sights in the world, like Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall on Earth. But today, the country is struggling with serious problems that make it unsafe for tourists. Venezuela has one of the highest crime rates in the world. Robberies, scams, and even kidnappings happen often. On top of that, prices are crazy because of hyperinflation, and basic supplies can be hard to find. Tourists are warned not to wear nice jewelry or take out their phones in public because thieves might target them. Would you go to Venezuela for its natural beauty, or is it just not worth the risk? Let me know in the comments. These countries might not be the most welcoming, but they're still fascinating in their own way. If you're curious about places where locals are totally fed up with tourists, check out my next video on 4 places where locals are angry at tourists. Some of the countries on the list might surprise you.